Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm up here in the beautiful Alabama hills and my Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro has just hit 100,000 miles. Time for an update. What a beautiful day. The sun is shining. You wouldn't believe it from looking at this shot right now, but just a couple days ago, we were covered with snow here, as you can see from these pictures. If you're new to the channel, real quick, I make my living as a fine art nature photographer, and I came up to the Alabama hills to capture this record-breaking snowfall. And as you can see here, I got an amazing shot of Mobius Arch looking up at Mount Whitney, so I'm really excited. But I'm not one of those guys that goes looking for off-road. It just, if off-road finds me or if I need to off-road to get to the location to take my photograph, I need to do it. And that's why I've picked and depended on this Toyota Tacoma to get me to where I need to be safely and reliably to photograph. The truck has been incredibly reliable over the 100,000 miles. And this has gotten me to some very beautiful and remote locations. Jumping into cost, how much does it cost me to keep this truck reliable and safe for the 100,000 miles? Now take this number with a grain of salt, and I'll explain later. This has cost me over the 100,000 miles just under $4,000 to keep this thing running. That's tires, batteries, oil changes, all that kind of stuff. Really what I think, it could have been done for maybe about half that. Because jumping into maybe my biggest gripe with this truck isn't really the truck itself, it's Toyota and their Toyota dealerships. If you saw my earlier videos, I've complained that since I travel so much, I take it to different dealerships to keep it running and safe and everything, depending on where I am. And I've noticed halfway through some of the checkups, Toyota, the dealerships were just looking at what needed to be done. They weren't looking at my history. So stuff was being done twice that didn't need to be. For instance, the spark plugs on this thing, I think were changed at 65,000 miles and 75,000 miles because just I took it to different dealerships and they weren't paying attention, and my fault too. I wasn't paying attention. I just assumed the dealerships knew what they were doing, and I just asked them to do whatever needs to be done. So looking back and going through everything, I think I could have kept this thing safely running, properly running for probably about half that, maybe closer to $3,000 to keep this thing running, but it is what it is. Now, one of the crazier things that happen over these 100,000 miles is, if you remember, these trucks were kind of known for searching for gears a little bit, especially going up hills at altitude. At least that's how I found it. But after a while, it kind of went away. And if you read, sometimes on Toyota forums, Tacoma forums, they were saying kind of secretly that the truck has a computer system that learns how you drive and kind of fixes itself. I didn't fully believe that. I kind of just thought I learned how to drive the truck, and I really didn't mind it at all because it got great gas mileage, which we'll talk more about later. But I didn't really mind it, and I kind of figured it's probably more me giving myself credit to learn how to drive the truck without it, because over the last year or so, I haven't had any issues with gear searching. Very interesting though, the battery died on me about 85,000 miles. And me not having time to properly change it, which means keep power to the truck, I just disconnected it, took the battery in, got a new one, and replaced it. So the truck was left without power for about 20 minutes. Interestingly enough, when I replaced the battery, the truck, drove it on the freeway, it was searching for gears again. So it's almost like the computer was wiped, so there might have been a little bit of truth to the truck learns how you drive it. Because I haven't had a problem with it for a long time for searching for gears, but all of a sudden with the battery disconnected, it went back to that, and it was really kind of bad for about a month. Since then, that was probably about 6 months ago, I changed that battery. It's back to how it was originally. It doesn't really search for gears, just a little bit when I'm at altitude going up a kind of a gradual hill. So I thought that was really interesting. Also too, put a pin in this. We're going to talk more about this when I get to the interior, because it changed a lot of the infotainment system for the better, believe it or not, with this battery change. Another quick thing about the transmission, engine, all the components in here, they hold fluids amazing. I haven't had one leak in anything over 100,000 miles, and it's been through some rough terrain and it's gone over some rough stuff. Engine holds oil perfectly, never had one drop of oil come out. Fluids, been pristine. I've been very impressed with that. Recalls. This Tacoma 2018 has had 3 of them. One for the front sensor, one for the gas pump, excuse me, and one for this rear tail light here. The first 2, the sensor and the pump, no issues, took it right in, Toyota handled it, no questions asked, quick and easy. This back light here though, I guess it leaks. It's supposed to leak in heavy snow, if snow's sitting on it, or heavy rain. I haven't been able to get that fixed under the recall because obviously I have this rack here and I have this camper shell. That hasn't been changed, but I've had no issue, and as you can see from these pictures, this truck's been through a lot of weather and we haven't had one leak come through that light. So I've heard some horror stories. I do want to get it fixed. It's just finding the time where the snug top guys can take it off. I got to pay them, take it into the dealership. It's going to be a hassle. Change that light out and then go back and get this resealed. So recall's not so bad to this point, and the one that still needs to be done hasn't been an issue so far. This Harrier has held up surprisingly well. It's in great condition after 100,000 miles, especially after what it's been put through. With the dogs, I had a horrible incident where I spilled a large coffee everywhere, but after a quick cleaning with Armol, it always comes back and it always looks so good. The only real wear and tear you'll see is on the door here or on the seat, but everywhere else, not too bad. A little bit here on the armrest, but really, it's held up great. I did add a cover for the back seats because a lot of stuff, plus dogs, are coming in and out of here. I like to use the bed of my truck actually for where I sleep. So a lot of the stuff, and it just goes to show how well it is holding up with a lot of gear going in and out of it. Now the entertainment system in this truck has never quite been my favorite, nor the navigation. We'll touch on the navigation here in a second. The entertainment system, it's fine, it's a little slow, but the big problem with it is the Bluetooth was really bad. My phone would always disconnect, and I'm not sure if that's a Toyota thing or a phone thing, but I've had 2 phones throughout this truck and they both kept just disconnecting, once or twice a month, just out of the blue. Back to that battery thing. When the battery was unplugged and the truck left for 20 or so minutes without any power, then plugged back in, something must have reset, because now I have not had that issue at all with the same phone. The funny thing is though, with this navigation, it's always completely different than my phone's navigation time-wise. It'll get you where you need to go, but it's always different. So let's just, for example, let's try typing in my art studio in Laguna Beach. So there you go, that's actually the closest it's been. My phone says 4 hours and 12 minutes. This says 4 hours and 22 minutes. So not too bad. I found some shade here to go over my MPG. Hopefully you can see a little bit better. So average over this truck, over the 100,000 miles, we usually do about 24 MPG. Our best is 25. As you can see right now, we're down a little bit. We're at 21.8. And I think a lot of that has to do is we've been in the Alabama hills here for about 2 weeks now. It's been all back roads, dirt roads, off-roading. So I think that's really kind of hindered our MPG, because usually we do a lot of long highway drives and that just pumps it right up. I just set the cruise control at 65 and go. I also think this has kind of been affected by, if you've been watching the news, the west coast of the United States has just been getting pummeled with storms these last 8-9 months. Constant storms coming in and out. And we've been driving in a lot of that. So there's a lot of delays, closures, alternate routes, stop and go traffic. Kind of really hindered our MPG in a way that all that stop and go traffic, I can't just put it at 65 and cruise and get the good MPG. Could have something to do with the rack up top. That could be creating a little bit more drag. But nevertheless, all averaged out, 22 miles per gallon. It's still pretty good for a truck of this size. Apologies for the abrupt scenery change. When I was editing this video, I noticed there was a ton of wind noise on some of the topics I was covering. So I thought I'd just refilm it here in my Laguna Beach art studio. So first off, the terrain management, I was talking about it out there. I haven't used that in a while. It's kind of known for being on the Tacomas, the TRD Pros, the 4x4s. Some people say it's a gimmick. It was nice to have when I first got the truck, but I haven't honestly used it in, God, years. But it still is relevant in the truck, and I'm still glad it's on the truck, because it's one of those things where my photography assistant or my girlfriend who aren't fully comfortable driving off-road, It's kind of a little helper for them that if they're going up some, tough terrain to bring the equipment to where I'm photographing, they can turn that on and give them a little bit more confidence, as well as it really kind of slows down the truck. So it slows them down so they can really concentrate to get over those obstacles. The second, I get a lot of questions about this, the paint on my Tacoma. I have had no issues with it. I've seen a lot online. I've got a lot of questions from you guys about paint and peeling. No issues on my truck, but then again, this truck is my baby. It gets waxed maybe 6, 7, maybe even 8 times a year. So it's really taken care of, but I'm not sure by doing that or something else there, I've had no issues with the paint at all. The infamous squeaky shocks on Tacomas. I've mentioned it in all my videos. It used to drive me nuts, the squeaking of the shocks, but now it's gotten better and I don't even notice it. It's part of the truck now when I'm off-roading. I do hear it, but it doesn't bother me whatsoever anymore. And another big surprise about this truck, I'm still on the original brakes. I haven't changed out the brakes. So for everyone who badmouths the drum brakes on this truck, my last checkup, still in the green. So that's an amazing thing, still on the original brakes. And real quick, before we head back to Alabama Hills, just being here at my art studio, if you are interested in more of the photography side of what I do, feel free to check out my website at www.cheynewalls.com. We are currently offering to our YouTube subscribers and viewers a 20% discount site-wide on my website. So feel free to go check it out and just type in YouTube 20 at checkout on our online store to receive the discount. Wind's picking up, so I thought we'd head back to camp. But I want to talk about too, while we're heading back to camp, an overlooked thing of the Tacoma. A lot of people don't talk about it in the reviews and everything like that, especially after long term. It's just how comfortable it is to drive on road and off. We're on a dirt road. It's an easy dirt road. A Camry can do it. But we're going, 20 miles an hour here, and you can see it's not that bumpy. It's not that bad of a road, but still, the Fox shocks handle it great. But this truck is also so comfortable on road, and that's never really talked about. This is the perfect daily driver, just when I'm working in LA or on the freeways a lot. It's so nice and comfy, it's smooth. It's a great asset to this truck that's not really talked about. Now we're back at camp and I gotta get ready to do a sunset photograph, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I know I don't have all this epic footage of this thing off-roading in these crazy remote areas. It does it, trust me. It's just one of those things that when we're out doing that, my concentration is on capturing that photograph, that once in a moment photograph. So I don't have time to stop, film this. As you can see from this video, there's a few little stuff we have time to, we'll film it, but this truck has been amazing. I cannot say enough good things about it. I mean, it speaks for itself. 100,000 miles with not one issue. Not one issue. All I have to do is change the tires, put oil on it, put gas in it, and it goes wherever I want it to go. No questions asked. And I still have to tell you, this truck, I mean, we'll do 15, 16-hour drives on the highway, then another 2 or 3 hours off-road just looking for a place to photograph. This truck has no problem doing that. It's absolutely amazing. I've never been in a vehicle such as this that can just handle tough terrain, tough situations with such ease, and handle the mundane stuff driving on an asphalt road with such ease. It does everything so well. Thanks again for watching. I really do appreciate it. Cheers.